We're not here to talk about barbering. Today, we're here to talk about the Bills. For those of you guys who've been following the channel, I'm always talking about the Bills, and this is a barber channel, but I'm going to tell you guys something. The news that Sean McDermott was fired came as a total shock. I mean, I actually kind of thought that maybe he did enough to keep his job. Now, I've been the first one to say, look, we need to consider getting rid of Sean McDermott, but at the same time, the fact that they kept Brandon Beane, and not only did they keep Brandon Beane, who's our GM, they elevated him to president of operations. So he's going to be able to have a heavy hand in picking the next coach. That means the next coach is going to be subordinate to him. And the Broncos game, the catch that wasn't a catch, yet in the Bears game, they had the exact same thing happen in the Bears game, exact same thing, and the call went the other way. The difference is the Bills would be walking into a Super Bowl right now. But because of this catch that wasn't a catch, and also the lack of a PI call, which you guys know is true, we got absolutely robbed out of that potential to have a Super Bowl this year. Now, I think back about like Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. They never really seemed like they had the greatest, warmest relationship. Sean McDermott is like a player's coach. The players love him. The players are not happy about this decision. And I don't know what on earth the Pagulas, the people who own the Bills, I don't know what on earth they could possibly be thinking to keep Brandon Beane when we look at all of the nonsense that's gone on here. He hasn't had any really great draft hits in the past couple of years. Like if you look at our receiver core, now, he liked to go out and kind of blame Sean McDermott all the time. Oh, it's our defense. It's our defense. It's our offense is scoring all the most points in the league, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me tell you something. Nowadays, teams are scoring a lot more than they used to back in the day. It used to be cool if you had a team that could score 30 points, you had a great offense. But there are some excellent offenses out here right now. And we get absolutely robbed by the refs. How is that McDermott's fault? I mean, you can't even challenge something that happens in overtime. So they were not even gonna look at the pass. They were not even gonna look at it. They were gonna say, "Oh, yeah, that's just routine. Yeah, it's a strip. He didn't survive the ground. Blah blah blah." Well, if all that's true, then why in the Bears game did the exact same thing happen, but it was ruled the opposite way? So who got robbed? Did the Bears get robbed, or did the Bills get robbed? Drop a comment right now if you guys think. But I think about all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, maybe a coach change was warranted, right? Maybe we do need to change coaches. I was the first one to say this for the longest time. Anybody who comes in here, asks me about the Bills, I say this all the time. I'm like, you know what? I just don't think Sean McDermott can get it done. But that did not mean I wanted to see Sean McDermott gone, and then the guy who's really behind the scenes creating a lot of friction. Brandon Beane went on like a host of radio shows and was just really critical of our defense, which if you're a defensive-minded guy like Sean McDermott, this guy's getting it done with a group of bums. All right, let's just be perfectly honest. He ain't got the talent that he needs to get what he needs out of it. So you look at Dane Jackson. Dane Jackson is arguably one of the other reasons why we why we blew this whole season. Because as soon as he came in, also Hancock in Jacksonville almost cost us two. We don't have safeties. We don't have DBs that we need. Cole Bishop is pretty good. But beyond that, we all know, Bills fans all know that we needed an elite receiver. We need an elite receiver, right? But Brandon Beane seems to think that the problem is defense. So Brandon Beane is probably going to go and get another defensive-minded coach, right? Good morning, everybody. Appreciate you guys for getting in here. Brandon Beane is going to go out and get another defensive-minded coach, right? And our offense is going to be the same struggling way. Brandon Beane does not support the fact that we needed a new receiver. And there was receivers to get. We could have had Jalen Waddle. We could have had Jacoby Myers. We could have had so many players that we could have had. But the real reason, Brandon Beane is the reason why we don't have an elite receiver. So if you thought that this decision is going to be good, I'm going to tell you why it's not going to be good. Because even if we do get John Gruden, or if we were to get Bill Belichick, or if we were to get somebody great and exotic, or even an offensive-minded coach, if we were to get all of that stuff, It doesn't change the fact that Brandon Beane is still there saying we don't need an elite receiver. We don't need any help on offense. We don't need any protection on the line. Josh Allen got his ass kicked this year. I mean, he's beat up, and that kid's still out there trying to make it happen. What sickens me the most is Josh Allen's hourglass, that time clock is upside down. It's upside down, right? And the time of him being able to play at this elite level, it's running low. It's running low. He doesn't have that many more years of being able to play at this elite level. We're talking what? Maybe Josh Allen could play at this elite level. Let's give him some credit and say 4 more years he could still run and do all the crazy things that he's doing, right? He could still run and do all these crazy things that he's doing for probably 3 more years. The Patriots, I know this has probably got a lot to do with it. The Patriots are probably going to go to the Super Bowl, and I actually think that the Seahawks are probably going to win the Super Bowl. But besides the point, I don't think that the Pagulas, the people who own the Bills, are very smart, right? Because they look at the Patriots and they say, "Oh my God, how can we have been beat by the Patriots? How can we be sitting on the sidelines while the Patriots are potentially going to a Super Bowl again?" And the answer is kind of simple. The Patriots had like 5 terrible seasons in a row. They got excellent draft choices, all built back their entire team. The Bills don't have the luxury to go and tank for 5 seasons with Josh Allen. If we do that, it's done, right? We have the most elite quarterback potentially that's ever even played the game on our team. And they refuse to give him any of the help. And then to top it off, our running back coach decided to retire yesterday. So all that great running that you were seeing, that might be an issue too. So it's just kind of disgusting to me what happened here, and the players are not happy. So you got authoritative coaches like Bill Belichick, right? They kind of seem like they rule more with the stick than the carrot. Sean McDermott, he was more of the carrot guy. You could tell the players loved him. They were a very loving group, and now you're telling me you're going to put an authoritative figure in there like John Gruden or Bill Belichick, and somehow these players are just going to be able to change overnight like this. The Bills are really in a bad position right now. Like I can't help but feel like this is really going to cause some serious issues. Now, my opinion, my personal opinion would have been, hey, how about, because there was friction between him and the GM, how about you give Sean McDermott a little more say in the draft? Let him get the players he wants, because this is, from what I'm understanding, the one of the bigger reasons why, like after watching everything there is to watch and listening to everything there is to listen to, from what I understand, there was friction between him and the GM. The GM wanted to go out and get certain players. Brandon Beane wanted to go out and get certain players, and Sean McDermott kept telling him they don't fit. They don't fit in my offense. And he was really scorned, I think, about a couple of these picks. So there was a couple of picks that these two were really at odds with. And if he would have been given that authority, you could have given Sean McDermott another year and said, "Listen, man, we're going to give you total control. We're going to let you pick your draft picks. We're going to let you do everything you want to do. We're going to give you 1 year. If there's no Super Bowl at the end of this year, you're gone." That's what I would have said. That's what I would have thought would happen. But I know these Pagulas, the people who own this team, I know that they are thinking in a business state of mind, right? This is a business guy. Terry Pagula is a business guy. That's why he elevated Brandon Beane to president of football operations, because guess what? He's only got to pay one guy to do 2 roles now. So this is just a straight up like business decision, because these guys, they just look across the board. They see the X's and O's. They don't see or extrapolate any of the additional things that are behind this. And sometimes that's just not the way you're going to get the most out of your football team. Like somebody said, Buffalo Bills had too many bites at the apple and came up with nothing. Time to move on. Totally agree. And I would not have had a problem moving on with Sean McDermott if they would have fired Brandon Beane as well. But I have a feeling I know what these assholes are going to do. And what they're going to do is they're probably going to make Joe Brady the head coach. Joe Brady, for those of you guys who don't know, is our offensive coordinator. And if you like to see a bunch of terrible screen passes, bad decisions, and the most vanilla offense you've ever seen out of the Buffalo Bills, then maybe you'll be happy that Joe Brady's going to be potentially the new head coach. That's probably what they're going to do. And I know they're having a close look at Brian Daboll. Brian Daboll, formerly offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills, when they were at their best, right? When we had a squad that could have actually won a Super Bowl, but again, we got robbed in the 13-second games. You know how many times and how hard it is to be a Bills fan? I wish that I never made my son a Bills fan, because he is going to suffer the same misery that I've suffered my entire life. I should blame my dad for making me a Bills fan, because it's been nothing but misery. If I could rate this on Yelp or on Google, I give it 1 star. All right, being a Bills fan is not easy. To watch your team get this close over and over and over again and have some kind of heartbreaking loss over and over and over again. Last year, the Chiefs, we missed a field goal. We lose. 13 seconds, the Chiefs. We can't get over the hump. Joe Burrow can't get over the hump. Now we lose to Denver, right? Who arguably didn't even really do anything that fantastic. I'm sorry, Bo Nix, he played all right. They played an okay game, but the refs really helped them win that game. Two PI calls right at the very end at the worst possible moment, when before it made it seem like they were going to let them play. When they didn't call PI on the play before halftime, when they didn't call pass interference, which clearly was pass interference, he was literally holding on his arm. There's all these videos of it. You guys can go look at it. They decided not to call. Okay. Maybe I'm a little upset by that, because that was a guaranteed win. We'd have walked right in the end zone, scored the touchdown. That would have been the end of it. But if they decided not to call that, that's fine. I could live with that. But don't turn around and call the exact same thing. That was such a bullshit PI call. The Trey White, 100% was PI. Don't care about that. He took his helmet off, threw it on the ground. That was pass interference. That definitely should have been called. I don't have no problem with that one. Talking about the one before that. The one before that was not pass interference, based on the rules that they set throughout the game. And the fact that you can't challenge anything in overtime, that all review is going to be handled by New York. What is going on with the NFL? Like, all reviews got to be going through New York? Okay, so the catch that was a catch, that was ruled not a catch, and it's actually ruled a turnover in the end that actually caused the game to end. That play is where we really got robbed probably the hardest, because at the end of the day, I had to go and watch the very next game with the Bears. Exact same situation happened. It's actually happened twice in the playoffs since then. And it was ruled the other way. But the thing that's shitty about this is they were just going to move right on. They weren't even going to spend a second to look at it. They literally made that call on the field. And if Sean McDermott didn't call timeout to try to slow things down, because that's all he could do. I don't know if you guys know that, but he wasn't able to make a challenge there. So all he did was call timeout just to say, hey, can we just have a couple looks at this? Can we just look at this? And they didn't even look at it. They literally spent all of 3 seconds to say, what, the receiver didn't survive the ground? We never even really got an explanation. I mean, I'm hearing people are saying, well, he didn't survive the ground, blah, blah, blah. Don't give me that, because his knee touches the ground, then his back touches the ground. He's in total control. Then he gets stripped. And this is what you get when you refuse to have any elite receivers. The best receiver we had for a deep ball was Brandon Cooks. This guy's clearly washed up. It is what it is. And we're trying to make do. So you blame Sean McDermott for the fact that you don't have a receiver. And I would only have to imagine that Sean McDermott knew that he needed a new receiver, right? That he needed a real receiver. Because Denver, and then in the end, Bo Nix breaks his ankle, from what I understand, kneeling down in victory formation. How do you break your ankle kneeling down for victory formation? So I just don't see how the Denver Broncos are going to go on. I think the Patriots are going to easily get into the Super Bowl. And then I get to hear about Drake May from these Patriot fans. He's going to be the second coming of Brady in the media's eyes, right? And the path for the Patriots to get to the Super Bowl really couldn't have been any better. It could not have been any better this year. The way things had worked out. And C.J. Stroud, that's another one. C.J. Stroud, how did you not sit this guy down? I mean, obviously, as a Bills fan, I'm watching this, and I'm thinking to myself, how on earth do you watch a guy throw what do you throw, 4 or 5 picks, and you don't sit him down? Now, as a Bills fan, you will also remember that we had Nathan Peterman, who threw 5 picks in a game and was never the same again. You guys think that he can recover from that in Houston? C.J. Stroud can recover from this? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure. So, as far as the coaches that are on my list that I would love to see, I personally love John Gruden. I think John Gruden would be an awesome coach to have. But man, these guys, maybe after all the dust settles, everything like that, the players will come around. But the players are not happy. Jordan Phillips, Deion Dawkins, a bunch of these guys are making statements basically saying this is the stupidest thing. And it definitely appears that way on the surface. And I don't think anybody would have been upset if they would have fired Brandon Beane along with Sean McDermott. Good morning, everybody. Where are we tapping in from? So I just had to get some of this off my chest. Let me ask you guys this. Was this a catch? Let me ask you guys. Do you guys think that call was correct on the field in Denver? The play that everybody's been talking about. And you would have thought that would have been the biggest news in football. That catch that wasn't a catch. You guys would have thought that would have been the biggest thing they were talking about in football. But it really wasn't, because days later, they decided to fire our coach, who has a great relationship with has a great relationship with pretty much all the players. He's a players coach. He's the type of coach that the players and them, he kind of leads out of love, and you could see it. Now you're going to get an authoritative coach in there, and I'm not so sure that's a bad thing either, guys. I mean, the best duo that was probably ever put together was Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Tom Brady and Bill Belichick did not always appear to have the warmest relationship. I don't think he's a very warm dude. And maybe Josh Allen needs that type of guidance. Maybe he needs somebody that could really just try to squeeze him for every ounce that he's got. I mean, Josh throwing away the ball right before halftime also feels like it cost us that game. Even if you strip away all the other nonsense that happened in that game, there's a couple of things you could point to and say, man, that really hurt us. That really made it so we couldn't win the game. But giving the Denver Broncos an easy field goal like that, that's a coaching decision. The decision that the coach decided to not go out there and kneel it. There's like 16 seconds left. You go out there, you kneel it, you're getting the ball after halftime. You probably do win the game. The game probably develops completely different. You can't really say. But that's another thing right there that just, when I watched that, I looked at Chad. We were all having a party in here watching it at the barbershop, and I looked at Chad. I'm like, Chad, I think that might turn out to be the reason we lose this game. He goes, no, there's a bunch of game left. No, I mean, it maybe not, but it feels like that's the reason we lost the game right there. So now it's just like, could it be? Like yesterday I said to myself, when I seen the news and everybody's talking about it, I said to myself, I'm like, there's no way they fired Sean McDermott without a plan. Tell me they have a plan. Tell me they have somebody lined up. Because you just release a coach that has done really this good, got us to the playoffs over and over again. Yes, we couldn't get over the hump, but some of this stuff is not really his fault. The 13-second game, definitely his fault. The Denver game, we could even blame him for the Denver game. But a lot of the stuff that happened along the way, Sean McDermott was rock solid. And I'll always love Sean McDermott. I think he's a great coach. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if we get some news today that he has turned out to get a new job, that he's got a job. Yo, what's the weather like where you guys are tapping in from? Because I'll tell you guys what. We're in Naples, Florida. It is cold as hell out there right now. As a Buffalo fan, I shouldn't be saying that. This cold over here just hits different. It just hits different. But yeah, I mean, I've been a fan my whole life. This is just the stuff that's been on my chest. I've been watching all these videos of the catch of a bunch of people. I mean, even Bob Maneri, he's out there. I mean, you got all these personalities that are out there saying, like, how can we just get robbed over and over and over again? Is this the NFL that just doesn't want the the Bills to win is like, what is happening here? I mean, what is up with these refs? How can they be able to do this over and over to certain teams and just kind of keep them out of the playoffs? I mean, I think next year, if we did come back with some adjustments, a good coach, maybe some receivers, we just need to be so good that they can't screw with the game. Like, if you go back to the previous Super Bowl, Chiefs-Eagles, right? Chiefs-Eagles, the Chiefs did not belong in that Super Bowl, right? I'll be flat out with y'all. The Chiefs did not belong there. They got a lot of lucky calls along the way. They got a lot of lucky breaks along the way. They won games because teams missed field goals from 20 yards away. So their record was a bit bolstered. And by the time they got to the Eagles, who actually were a great team last year, even if the refs wanted to screw with that game, even if the refs wanted to try to favor the Chiefs because they wanted Mahomes to win a third Super Bowl, they couldn't. They flat out couldn't because the Chiefs were so bad and the Eagles were so good that there was just no way that they could manipulate that game in the favor of the Chiefs. That's the team the Bills need to be. That's how this team needs to be if we want to win a Super Bowl. We need to go in there and we need to not have these nail-biter games. God, that Jacksonville game about gave me a heart attack. I thought we were done right there. And now thinking back on it, honestly, it would have probably been better. It would have probably been better if we had just lost in Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars would have been a great team to go on. I would have loved to have seen that kid maybe get into a Super Bowl. He's another one that really deserves it. And at the end of the day, the teams that are coming from the AFC right now that are going to have to probably play against the Seahawks, I don't think nobody's going to beat the Seahawks. I think they're going to win the Super Bowl, and it's going to be a wrap. But if there was a team that could have given the Seahawks a run for their money, so to speak, I think the Jaguars had a chance at doing it. I really do. So, y'all are tuning in from Turad. I don't even know where that is. Reno, Nevada, Nebraska. How cold is it in Nebraska? He said it's cold as hell. What up, Ethan? I appreciate all you guys for tuning in and listening to me rant. I had to get this off my chest, man. I had to get this off my chest. I've been thinking about this the past couple of days. I was going to make some videos yesterday about the catch and all this stuff, but so many other people already did it that there's just really no point. Marv has been all over it. How is this not a catch? I don't know. I really don't know. He says it was exactly what Sean McDermott said. They were too aggressive, and I said the same thing watching the game. Too aggressive, and they made mistakes, although that last catch wasn't intercepted. Yeah, 100%. 100%. They were aggressive to a fault in that game, and I could not imagine the level of pressure that Josh Allen felt going into that, because all he's got to do is sit back, watch the media a little bit, and see that they're all talking about there's no Mahomes, there's nobody in his way, right? There's nobody in his way. Well, how does that make a difference, right? This guy can't do this on his own. I mean, next year, the pressure for Allen to perform is going to be even higher. It's going to be even worse. And a new coach coming in there, a whole new system. I'm kind of excited for that. I'll be honest. I'm kind of excited to see, because believe me, there were so many things that I watched throughout this season where I kind of thought it's time for Sean McDermott to go. Sean McDermott really didn't show any chinks in the armor, so to speak. There was never a thought that I wanted to see him gone until about 2 years ago. 2 years ago, as you start to see certain decisions that were being made, like, for instance, playing prevent defense in the 13-second game against the Chiefs, you had these guys playing so far out that you gave them an opportunity to kick a field goal. If you would have just played the defense that was working that entire game, we wouldn't even be having this conversation, because Josh Allen would have went to a Super Bowl. He'd have won a Super Bowl. And I think the pressure for this kid, I think the pressure would be off. The pressure will be off. And unfortunately, Miami lost last night to Indiana. That's a whole nother situation. But the pressure would be off. And I look around the league and I'm like, okay, what do the Bills really need to be successful next year? One, they're going to have to address this safety situation. Cole Bishop's turned out to be an excellent safety. We're going to need another safety. We're going to need some depth at that. I don't know if Jordan Poyer is going to come back. I'm not sure. But we also need to address the corner situation. We got a couple of weak corners. And if they're talking about extending the season from 18 weeks to 19 weeks or something like that, like they're talking crazy, because you guys see at the end of the year, every one of these teams is so banged up that if you don't have depth in certain positions, when you get to these big key moments and your top players go out, that's when you're just totally screwed. And it turns out Josh Allen's injuries with his foot and his ankle and all this stuff was way worse than we were led to believe. But you couldn't tell. I mean, for the most part, Josh Allen played a pretty decent game. Did he play the best game? No. But he played a game that was good enough to win. And if not for a couple of calls that did not go our way, or even just one call, you could point to probably 2-3 calls that if just one thing didn't happen, we'd probably be talking about how we're playing in the AFC Championship right now. So if you look at the whole thing from a bird's eye view, I don't know. I don't know what to say. How this is gonna help us changing coaches without changing the GM. To me, that just seems a bit irresponsible. It seems a little crazy. Now, if they elevate Joe Brady as the head coach, I'm gonna be real pissed off, because there's nothing I've seen out of Joe Brady this year that makes me feel like he's ready to be the head coach. Nothing. Who's your guys' team? Who do you guys think is going to win the Super Bowl this year? Even better question. Who do you guys think is going to win the Super Bowl this year? I just feel like the Seahawks, next week's games are going to be awesome. I just feel like the Seahawks are going to be such a tough team to beat. They seem like they really just have everything going for them. And, it's probably time for them to win a Super Bowl, in all honesty. We're going to set up our camera for today. I'm going to take these things off here. But yeah, man, we're up here in the studio. It turns out we're going to need one more piece of equipment before we can do the show the way that I have had it envisioned. And we're going to be back here doing our thing, talking about barbering, teaching people how to cut hair, and everything like that. So I'm pretty excited about getting this show off the ground. I really hope that we would already have the show off the ground back here, but I would say give me about a week to 2 weeks, and we'll be going back to doing shows as normal. We're going to have a lot of fun with the channel doing things like this. So just a normal Buffalo Bills fan here that has been sitting back watching this situation unfold forever, and it really has been a 1-star experience. It has been terrible, to say the least. And it is just rife with heartbreak. And whenever you think that you've seen the worst things that could possibly have ever happened, whenever you think that you're looking at the worst possible thing that could have happened, like the 13-second game, the missed field goal, Scott Norwood back in the 90s, whenever you think that you've seen everything there is to see, the Bills find a way to give you another devastating, heartbreaking loss. And Danny said, I feel like these refs are in the pocket. That's a whole nother conversation in of itself, because there's so much money in this game now with how much legalized gambling there is now. It's probably out of control. And how hard would it be if you had some kind of edge in the game and all you did was say, hey, I got a feeling you should bet on the Broncos. I got a feeling. And somebody you trust goes and makes that bet. One day, we're probably going to, like 20 years from now, a whole bunch of stuff is going to come out. And we're going to be like, oh, wow, all that was going on, so that's why the Bills didn't get a Super Bowl. Oh, that's why Allen never got to play in one. Allen is, unfortunately, like the new John Elway. John Elway did not win a Super Bowl till he was 36 years old. He was tough as a mother. He would put himself head first. He would do anything to win a game. And I look at Allen and I see the same thing. I mean, this guy is as tough as they come and is willing to just put his body on the line and anything else. Then the other thing, if I want to bitch about one other thing, our tight end situation this year wasn't the greatest. Dalton Kincaid, arguably one of the better tight ends that came out, him and Sam Laporta. That kid is so good, but he is just so fragile. He's just constantly injured all year long. The Bills are way over the salary cap. We have so much money being spent in so many bad directions. Can you afford to tank at least one season next year? Get rid of everybody. Maybe you go that route. Maybe elevate Joe Brady to the head coach for 1 year, but behind the scenes you have a deal going with Mike Tomlin or somebody else, and you say, all right, Mike Tomlin still has a 1 year contract with the Steelers. If you want Mike Tomlin to come and coach the Buffalo Bills, which I think would be awesome, but if you wanted that to happen, you would have to make a trade to the Steelers to get him. So you'd have to trade a pick or something. And if you do that, we're even further back than what we started. So Mike Tomlin probably won't happen, but if you made a deal with Mike Tomlin, you said, listen, this is all cloak and dagger. You're going to be the next coach of the Buffalo Bills 2026, 2027. And for now, we're going to elevate Joe Brady. Then Joe Brady gets what? Fired? You better keep something like that real quiet if you're going to do that. Go into detail a boat at 44 degrees. No, I wouldn't be excited about that either. You know, they say the heat's in the tools. He said, I'm kind of hoping the Rams get it. Hey, they might. You know, they might. But I just feel like the Seahawks are just everything we're not. And it just feels like, to me, when I watched that team, they just took care of business. They took care of business all the way. The Eagles fell apart in a game they got outcoached in. They could have won. Fried deer ankles. Is that some kind of joke? No, I've never had no. Somebody said, did you ever have fried deer ankles? Ankles? No, but I had fried deer cankles. So, all right, you guys. That's it. That's it for the rant, man. I had a little fun getting in here. I feel better. I feel like I got something off my chest. I got a little stuff I got to do before my first customer gets here. I got about a half hour. Gonna try to knock out a short. He said Steelers don't get a pick. Mike stepped down. You're saying Tomlin stepped down, but that's the thing is Tomlin is still under contract for a year. So even if he decides to quit and stop coaching, the Steelers technically still have him under contract for what I understand, which would mean that we would need to negotiate at the very least to try to get him. And I don't know how that works. And there's so many things we just don't know. There's so many things we just don't know as Bills fans. Like, we don't know what the real trouble was. We don't know if Sean McDermott was the actual problem, or we don't know if maybe it really was. Maybe it really was Brandon Beane. You know, I think the fans sitting back watching us not get the talent we need and not get what we need to, be competitive. Well, those decisions fall on Brandon Beane. And if those decisions fall on Brandon Beane, then why is he still here? You know what I mean? That's the hard thing to understand. Why is he still here? If that's how it went. There's just so many things that we don't know. Look, I got Bill stuff everywhere in here, guys. I've been a fan my whole life. And I don't know why. And I don't know why, the other thing that's kind of funny about being a fan of the NFL somehow is, you can't just change teams. You're just stuck with them. I'll never feel the same way about any other team as I do about the Bills. You know, I'll never feel the same. It'll always be, it'll always be this way. He said, do you know who has any Echo Blades in stock? Can't find them anywhere. I thought Echo Blades were back in stock. And if you still have that question, next week I have something cooking here. I should be able to ask some questions and figure out the answer for you guys on that one. But, so I'm a Chiefs fan. So let's just say Drake May won a Super Bowl. Do you understand how upsetting that would be to I wouldn't even say I wouldn't be mad. Personally, I wouldn't be mad at all. As far as I'm concerned, the Patriots have nothing to do with us. Yes, they're a hated rival. They have been so forever. But at the same time, like, I'm not mad at another person's success. I'm just mad that we had it within our control to do so many things and we just can't seem to get it done. So, do you know how upset the ownership structure would be to watch Drake May win a Super Bowl in his first year? Do you understand the amount of media glazing that would take place with Drake May? Does he deserve the MVP this season? Probably not. Probably Matt Stafford deserves the MVP. But I can't even imagine how much media glazing there would be about Drake May. They already want to compare him to everybody in the world. They want to compare him to Tom Brady. They want to say, he's done so many things better than a lot of other players that first came in the league, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry, I just don't see it. He's a good quarterback. He's got a ways to go. But if he were to win a Super Bowl right now, I think that would be a miracle. But the NFC is for real. And honestly, even if, let's just say we didn't get robbed. Let's just say everything worked out the way we hoped and we got to a Super Bowl. Do you really think with this group of hapless bums that we have, minus maybe Khalil Shakir as far as our receivers go, do you really think that we stood a chance against somebody like the Seahawks or the Rams? Let's just be perfectly honest here. No Mahomes in his way, no Joe Burrow, none of this other stuff. We get to a Super Bowl. Was this a Bills team that could win against the NFC this year? And that's probably my only consolation because I never really thought for a second that this roster would be able to win a Super Bowl. I'm just throwing that out there. So at the end of the day, the Bills got some real soul searching to do. I can't wait to see what the news is today. Hopefully the Bills had a plan. Hopefully the Pagulas had a plan before they just released the head coach. But they have a history of doing stupid shit. I mean, they had Rex Ryan was one of their hires. Then Brian Daboll, at the OC. Then they've made a lot of kind of what seemed like half-cocked decisions. And if they're thinking straight along the lines of business, saving money, and running it like you would run a company, I can't even imagine that we would be competitive next year because we're probably going to get some kind of elevated, like let's say Joe Brady gets elevated to head coach. That'll be all there is to this whole story. This story will die on the vine. This guy's been up in the booth too. He's never even been down by the field. He stays up in the booth. He'd have to come out of that booth. I just want to get there, he said, and I can't see Darnold winning a ring. I hear what you're saying. I want to get there. It would have been fun to see the Bills get to a Super Bowl. That would have been the first time in my adult life that I would have seen that. And they're just never gonna get there. Hopefully when we do get there, we actually have an opportunity in the roster to win it. If they were to extend this season any longer, how could these guys really be expected to stay healthy this whole time? And another thing too with the Bills that has been bothersome, I honestly think we need to take a look at our medical staff because we had so many injuries and it just seems like these guys are not rehabbing properly. It just seems like we had more injuries this year than I can ever really remember. And it's kind of hard to sit back and watch this and not wonder, okay, why are they not rehabbing properly? I seen Stephon Diggs come back from a torn ACL, a bad season in Houston, to the New England Patriots, come and play a game against the Buffalo Bills, and absolutely torch us. Do you know how difficult the rehab at his age would have been to be able to come back and play like this? To me, that's a crazy story. That's a crazy story right there. And he says, not requiring a wide receiver like Shaheed or Jacoby at the deadline should have got the GM fired. Thank you, bro. Thank you. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Because at the end of the day, a lot of this falls to him. And unfortunately, Sean McDermott is taking the blame for a lot of this. Now you lost a good coach. You don't know what we have no idea what we're doing. And that's why it's hard to believe for me that the Bills would have done something like this without having had some kind of plan. Without having some kind of plan going into this. Can't even imagine. He said, take a breath. I'm sorry, I'm worked up. This is USA football. We're not talking about rugby. I don't know the first thing about rugby, but we did actually have Christian Wade. From what I understand, he was like one of the best rugby players of all time. But we had Christian Wade on our team a couple of years ago, and I was a little bit upset. That they didn't give that kid a chance, because he was something, man. That guy could run. But the problem with rugby and American football is it's so different. The blocking that you need to take place, that needs to take place in the NFL is completely different. You need to be able to read defenses and understand what's about to happen. That's why Stefon Diggs is so damn good, because when Stefon Diggs is on the line, he can read the defense as good as any quarterback in the league. And he can kind of spot where potential problems are going to be, and he'll break off the route and get himself open and provide Drake May an outlet, somebody to throw the ball to. And I would love for the Bills to have a receiver that was smart enough to do things like this. And Allen doesn't really have anybody that can bail him out when it's getting hairy. Everybody just expects Allen to be Superman back there and somehow get away from all this craziness. Some of Allen's craziest plays were he's completely under duress. And it's just like, how do you expect this to work out over and over and over again? It's not always going to work out. And if you had a receiver that could spot the defense and see what potential problems were in the coverage as he runs his route and turn around, yes, like Cole Beasley. Literally, I got Cole Beasley right here when Josh Allen jumped over Sneeds in the Chiefs game. Josh Allen jumping over the Minnesota Vikings corner was untouched, ran 4th and 8. Some of this stuff that Josh Allen has done is unbelievable, superhuman. And if you're just a football fan, there's no way that you couldn't just love this guy. You got to love this guy. Never once does he take credit. He's nothing like any of these other quarterbacks in a sense. Like he's not like Cam Newton, where he would go out dressed like a woman going to church, or Joe Burrow like acting like he's Joe Cool, where he's really done nothing in the last couple of years, coloring his hair blonde and shit. Like, Josh Allen is just a guy who's going to take all the blame every time. And how could Josh Allen not sit here and blame himself for losing his coach, which has clearly been a huge mentor to him? And how is this really going to impact this young man? Right? How is this really going to impact Josh Allen? He has to feel like he cost his coach his job right now. Because really, that's who's blaming himself right now. Josh is blaming himself. So it just kind of sucks to see this, because it isn't really true. It isn't really true. If they've given this guy some help, it would have been a whole different story. If he had a receiver, we have the running game, we have a running back, and this running back in James Cook can run on pretty much any team. He's shown he can be effective in almost every situation. And this Bills defense falls apart over and over again at key moments and allows subpar teams to have their way with us. I should have known when I watched the Miami Dolphins wail a tune on us. I was there at that game. And they just beat the brakes off us. They were one of the only teams that just literally beat the brakes off us start to finish. Well, that was with Tua. And that was right before that trade deadline. It's crazy. It's crazy. But anyways, you guys, he said maybe added Mike McDaniels. I wouldn't say no to Mike McDaniels. I think he's a weird-ass dude. But at the same time, I think that maybe there's a possibility that he could be a great OC. Maybe if he's not the guy who's responsible for everything, but he's the guy that's responsible for the offense and making some creative decisions, And, Mike McDaniels, to me, looks like a bit of a player's coach, too. Like, he looks like he had a relationship with his players. I don't sense that he was a big disciplinarian, to me. I think if you get a big disciplinarian in there, that locker room is not going to be healthy for a while. And he said at least Cam got to a Super Bowl. I'll give you that. Cam got to a Super Bowl. Cam was an unbelievable player, but he's still a cross-dresser. Don't change the fact. But just all I was trying to say, though, despite all that, I don't mean to be negative here, but all I was trying to say, though, is just Josh Allen's just a stand-up dude. And he's the one who's always taking blame for everything. So, it's just kind of hard to sit there and watch a kid blame himself. And he's going to be blaming himself for losing that team and costing his coach the job. But on another note, I'm editing something for protection dogs. This is kind of cool. This is my timeline here for these protection dogs. I don't know what these people pay for these. Yeah, you got to go, bro. You got to go. You've been hit from the channel, fool. You ain't even gonna finish that sentence. But anyways, these protection dogs are pretty sweet, dude. Like the dog in this video is unbelievably well trained, and this place called Coastal Canines. I'm editing their video for them, and man, it's just really cool. It's just really cool. I don't know how much these dogs cost. I hear some of these protection dogs cost like 90 grand. Would you guys ever spend 90 grand for a dog? But this dog can do anything you could imagine. Short of like cooking your dishes, I think anything else is is a possibility here. And that's my protection dog right there. She's well trained too. But all right, you guys, before we ramble too much more, I got to get ready for my first customer, try to get a couple of things done. I really do appreciate those of you guys who have tapped in here. Let me get this off my chest. I feel a little better. I'll be on the lookout for any further Bills news. But the door's wide open here, and I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, the best case scenario, let's just say we got John Gruden as the head coach. He's probably one of my favorite guys. I love this guy. I think he would be so awesome. If you got John Gruden in there, maybe like Mike McDaniels as an OC, and you go and find a defensive coordinator, you got to get rid of Bobby Babbitt. He's got to go. So you find a great defensive coordinator. We get a squad behind our squad. If we got the right guys behind, because it seems like that's what the Patriots did. The Patriots have a back room full of great guys supporting this cast. Guys that can literally put them in a position to win and put each person in the right position to play their absolute best. And I think that's what we're seeing on full display. That Patriots defense looked tough in that last game. And they're going to probably walk into a Super Bowl now. I do not see Denver beating the Patriots. And if they did beat the Patriots with a backup quarterback, that would honestly come as quite a shock. And the Patriots are way ahead of schedule. I mean, they still got draft picks, money to spend. They're a young team. They're only going to get better. And where's that put Josh Allen in the mix? He's got to go against Drake May, Mahomes, Burrow, whoever else. There'll be some new face next year that we'll have to do business with. It's crazy. It's crazy. But all right, y'all. This is the YBA. I'm going to let y'all go. I know this was a bit of a side rant here, but we definitely got robbed. And that shit was definitely catch, and we should definitely be playing in this next game. And we're not. And we got a fired coach instead. Our entire organization is in disarray. And we have no clue what the future looks like for the Buffalo Bills. Double tap in the middle of the screen on your way out. I'll catch you guys in the next video.